There you are. It's our community, and I welcome you in. I need to tell you that many people have interesting hobbies. And Mark Radaziner is the chair of the journalism department here at Johnson County Community College. But the most interesting part of him is that he's a cactus collector.
Love it.
See, I always think that hobbies sometimes are more interesting than our daily. He has how many?
300 pots.
300, and you can see him sitting in his living room surrounded by his cactus if you should go and visit him. And this is only a small portion of your entire collection, I would say. And have you pushed all the other family members out of the house?
Well, I have to rearrange my house in the winter, in October, when I bring my cactus plants back inside after being outdoors all summer. The entire home is rearranged, and then when I take all my plants outside, the house gets rearranged again.
Well, the one good thing about cactus is you don't have to water them only when you think about it.
And especially during the winter, they like to go dormant, so it's kind of
nice. So you don't water them at all in the wintertime?
The ones that have some leaves on them, I will water them sometimes, but most of my plants I don't water at all.
Don't water them at all. Now there is one kind, I have one, it's tall and thin, and it has little leaves on it.
Do they drop during the winter?
Yeah,
yeah,
they
that's
do.
Totally natural for them to do, want to do that.
And but I don't have any that are outside. They're all inside, so I just water them when I think about it. If they're inside all the time, do you water them?
Rarely.
Yeah, well, me too. The big one, yeah, I don't water them very often.
No, and this summer, with all the rain we've had, I have really not had to water my plants hardly at all.
Well, some have gotten too much water, haven't they?
That they have, and I have lost some of my plants to rot because they've just gotten too much water.
Boy, once a cactus starts to rot, it's gone.
That's right.
It's just bad. How did a nice man like you get involved with all these cactus?
You know,
what happened to you?
When I graduated from college, my mom and a good friend gave me a plant for my first apartment, and I grew plants for a very long time. My mother was an avid gardener. My grandfather was a very avid gardener.
But they grew something to eat.
They grew, yes, they grew things to eat, but they also grew a lot of plants as well. And after a while, I found myself watering these plants every few days, and I just didn't have time to do that. And I happened to see some cactus plants at a nursery once and thought they were so interesting looking that I thought I would try to buy one, and I did. And I knew that they didn't need a whole lot of water, so I just continued to buy more and more and more, and it became kind of an obsession for me and a great hobby.
And I have some cactus plants too. I want to show them to you because I like cactus. I have decided that it's part of my personality because they really grow well. And I'm thinking, am I that prickly? I'm not sure. But I have a lot of cactus plants. And these two, actually there are 4 of them. I just kind of moved them so I could take the picture. And see the one that's the naked truth in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you call that one that kind of drapes over the side?
That one looks like it's a type of euphorbia.
Now that one has leaves.
Yes, and euphorbias do have leaves. I actually brought a euphorbia in today for you to see.
And we'll look at that in just a minute. Now there are 2 more that I have. These are in my kitchen. And I don't know. They just grow, the little devils. They just smile at me and they grow. And
they look so healthy. They like being right in front of that window.
That's an east window.
Mm-hmm.
And they like that. And then I have kind of like Jack and the Beanstalk. I started out with that plant. Maybe it was 2-3 inches tall. And I would put it outside in the summertime. And then it got so big, I thought, oh, well, that's such a nice plant. I can't throw that away.
Right.
So I brought it in the house. I guess I've had that maybe 7-8 years. I've had it a long time.
That also is a type of euphorbia. I've had one very similar to that has reached 8 feet tall.
Don't
which is
say that.
how tall my ceilings are, and I've had to...
What do you do?
I've given it to friends who have higher ceilings, or I've actually had to cut it up into pieces and then let the cuts scab over for a few days and then replant them. And start new plants.
Will the cut scab over that on the plant that you've left?
Well, you really take away everything, and then the stalk you more than likely have to get rid of.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to cut it because I don't want to get rid of that plant. But I told you, you know, I had 2 of them, and I tried to replant one, and it's so prickly, and I kept sticking myself in it. Then I broke the plant, and I just threw it out. But that one, and it's not in a very big pot. Now, why is it that that one flourishes, and it's a huge plant, and the pot, maybe 7, 8, 10 inches across?
They're used to growing in foreign countries. They grow in Africa, and they grow in very, very hot climates, and they grow between rocks sometime too. So they're just used to growing a lot in the hot sun and maintaining a very small root system. It's one of the benefits of having cactus plants, I think.
And the other benefit is you don't have to water them much.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no. Well, in other words, they're really kind of prickly characters.
They're prickly characters, but they're so much fun.
They are.
And have that
They
visual
are.
interest.
Well, and you also told me that you can leave them, there's some that winter outside.
Yes, I have 2 perennial beds in my backyard
Cool.
that I've worked very hard to maintain with a lot of gravel, a lot of sand, not as much soil, and there are about 100 types of cactus and succulent plants that will survive our winters.
How many do you have in your beds outside, different times?
I probably have 25 to 30 different varieties. And then I put a lot of rock in and glass so that the sun and during the winter will reflect off of the rock and the glass. And
they'll think it's
hit the
hotter
plants.
than it really is.
Yes.
You fool them.
I fool them a little bit. It works.
Well, are they big?
Some of them get pretty big. They can get as much as about 4 feet tall. I try to keep them scaled back a little bit. And when they get to be too much, I will cut them back. And I've sort of handed them out to many of my neighbors who I've sort of forced to have their own cactus
So
beds.
they've become cactus aficionados too then.
Yes, as much as I can get them to be.
So the whole neighborhood has just gone mad.
Yeah, pretty much. It's fun though, and they enjoy that hobby
Now,
too.
do they bloom outside?
They do. They bloom really beautifully, all different colors, and a lot of times cactus plants only hold their blooms for a day or 2, not for very long,
Yeah.
most of them.
I have a desert rose that bloomed. I need to show you that picture because it just surprised me so. And it was in my kitchen. They're all in the kitchen. And surprised me so. And that's a desert rose. And all of a sudden, I came in one morning and there was a bloom on that. And I thought, I've never had a cactus bloom. Never. But the problem was that after it bloomed, and I rescued it because it was dying, and the problem was that it bloomed, it had 3 or 4 blooms on it, but I think that's just beautiful. But it turned up its toes, and it is not with us any longer.
Sometimes plants just want to die, unfortunately.
Well, that one
for
surely did.
any
I was
reason.
so annoyed because it was so pretty.
And I have the same plant. Desert rose is the name of that particular plant. The grouping of those plants, they're called adeniums. And there are several varieties. And I have probably 12 adeniums at home.
And each bloom's a different color?
Different colors, yes.
Oh my goodness.
So I do have a desert rose actually as well, but I have some that bloom very, very dark burgundy, yellow. Some of them are tricolored, double colored, white and red.
Do they all have that big bottom to
They're the
them?
big caudex is what that's called.
That's a nicer term, isn't it?
The bottom.
Yeah. So they're all shaped the same.
They are, and the bigger they get, I have one that is actually quite large. It's probably a good 3.5 feet, and it's very,
Really?
very large. The blooms are a beautiful red, and the caudex on it is really big. It's really nice.
Is it sitting in a window?
Right now it's outside on my patio.
Oh, well, see, it likes that.
It likes that, and in the winter I put it in my basement under grow lights, but they do drop all of their leaves. I don't give it any water for 6 or 7 months. When I bring it back outside in May, it starts shooting out new leaves, and now it's starting to flower here in August.
Because those are so pretty. Now, when you pot them, you have your own mixture that you pot them in. I know that some of you like cactus, like I do, and I just buy cactus potting soil.
That's a good idea, but I use so much potting soil that I mix my own.
Well,
and
anybody that has 200 cactus plants should go in the potting soil business.
Yeah, so I use some actual soil. I also use a lot of gravel and sand, and I use a product called Turfus, which is tiny bits of clay pot that have been broken up.
Little bits,
little
tiny
teeny
bits.
Yes. And then I mix everything together, and it's a nice porous soil so that when I do water it or it does rain outside, the water really flows very quickly
So
through it.
you have removed some of the dirt from those cactus beds outside and replaced it with that potting soil kind of
Exactly.
material.
Yes, and rototilled the yard.
That's a
rototilled
lot
those
of work,
beds.
dear.
Oh, it's fun work, though. It's fun work. It's a great hobby.
It
I
is.
think everyone should have a hobby. And I like gardening as it is. I have many flower beds and a couple of those cactus beds in my backyard, so it's a lot of fun for me.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, because I really, and I don't know why, but the cactus grows well in my house, and I enjoy watching them because they start out really little and
Sure do.
they grow. They're slow, but that's okay. And I just think they're wonderful. So let's take a look at some of these plants.
Okay.
This one, I thought it had been grafted.
No, that is a plant all by itself. It's called an Echinocereus. And what I really like about this plant, although it is a slow grower, it's very hardy. It loves the direct sun. And as you can see, the top of it
tip it a
is
little bit.
red. The more sun you can give it, the redder it gets. It's just a beautiful plant.
And you started out, what size was this
It
baby?
was probably no more than an inch, inch and a half.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
See, I looked at this and I thought, you grafted something on the top. You're fooling me.
I promise I'm not.
Promise you're
But
not.
it really is a fun plant.
I like this one. Now, this is related to one of the ones that I have.
Yes, it's a euphorbia, and they also don't need a whole lot of water. I have about a dozen of these plants, but they're related to one another. They have the same stems, but the leaves are all differently shaped.
They almost look like rosemary leaves.
They certainly do. And this one, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but this one is flowering
There it is, right there.
now. It's doing really well, so it really is enjoying where I have
I
it
thought,
outside.
when you said that, I thought, oh, my glasses aren't working because I don't see any flowers.
Yeah.
But it certainly is.
Yeah, many of the cactus plants that I have,
This
such a
one is my favorite. I
Oh, good, I'm
really
glad you
like
like that.
one.
Many of them have very, very small flowers. You almost have to have a microscope to look at them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So how do they cross-pollinate?
They don't. They're grown from seed.
Oh, okay. So the flowers,
They drop off eventually.
but they must be good for something or somebody, or they wouldn't flower. In other words, in the desert, do the insects or the...
I do see some butterflies and other animals that are attracted to the flowers. I don't know that they're necessarily pollinating them, though.
So the flowers are not necessary for new cacti.
That's right.
Oh, okay. So if you want to grow another one just like this, you cut off one of the arms and start it again?
Usually these are grown from cuttings, yes.
I'll be darned. Did you buy it this size?
Well, when I bought it, it was much smaller than this, but I've grown it to this size.
And this is how old?
This is about, I'd say, 7 years old.
Well, see, it's going, there's a lot of activity in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will those grow into arms?
Yes, they will. So they will spread out as time goes on.
See, I just think that I really do like. I check the greenhouses, but once in a great while you find one that's different, but not. So where do you buy yours?
I buy my plants from growers, from professional growers. I also attend cactus and succulent conferences. We have some here. We just had one this past weekend here in Kansas City. I belong to the Kansas City Cactus and Succulent Society.
Oh.
We just had our show and sale, and so we had a grower come who sells unique plants.
Local grower?
This is from Oklahoma City.
Oh, uh-huh.
And so a lot of the plants that you might buy at a local nursery probably wouldn't carry something like this because this tends to be a little more expensive. And I think someone who normally would go to a nursery probably wouldn't want to spend as much money on a plant like this.
What are we talking about here?
Oh boy, this plant could cost $35 to $40.
I just changed my mind. Well, but people who really are serious about the plants, that's, you buy an orchid plant,
Right.
and that costs you a nice, good-sized orchid plant costs you that and more.
Exactly. So it's just part of the hobby. It's worth the money. And every time I look at plants, when I'm at a grower's, I have to decide, is it worth buying the plant and
To make
nurturing
it 201.
to make it 201 or 301? And is it worth the possibility of it dying on me? And that's just part of what the hobby is. Sometimes the plants, they don't like the environment. Some of the plants that I buy, they don't like humidity. And so you just have to do research. There are a lot of books out there. There's a lot of information.
Do you have very many funerals?
Well, I make the funerals very, very quick.
And you don't
I
tell.
Move on. Yes, I move on to some of the other plants.
Yeah. Is there any particular type that you find that you can't grow?
Pharaoh cactus
And what do
plants.
they look like?
They are pretty thorny, and they have sort of a really large bulbous center. But they tend to get spots all over them because they don't like the humidity.
Oh,
so I've had
yeah,
to throw a
so-
couple of those away, and I don't buy those anymore.
Well, so you learn. How about this guy back here? He's kind of interesting. He almost looks like a, I don't know what, like disjointed leaves.
This is a Sansevieria plant, and the common.
Now I do see Sansevieria in the
Yes.
in the greenhouse.
The common Sansevieria that people might buy at a greenhouse is typically also known as a mother-in-law's tongue.
Right, that's what my mother used to call them.
And they grow very, very tall and thin, but they come in dozens and dozens of varieties. So this is just one variety of the Sansevieria. It's called a baseball bat plant because these leaves are very, very hard.
So are those new leaves? Because this one's, no, it isn't. I was going to
This
say
one
it's
is
a
not,
different.
but as you can see, this one here, I don't know if I can turn it toward
Yeah.
the camera,
Yeah.
but this one that's growing right here is brand new. It has just come out this summer. And it's a slow grower, so I'm thrilled to have that.
Well, you know, my mother used to say those mother-in-law's tongues, you just can't kill them. But you, I'm not sure that that's true, but I've had them. I had one, a big one downstairs, bloom.
Oh, yes, they bloom beautifully. And you know when they like to bloom the most is during the winter.
This one was kind of a, it looked like it was white, and it had it was kind of, wasn't a solid bloom with petals. It was sort of
It's a stalk. They usually
Yeah.
shoot out a very, very large stalk, and with white flowers, and they're incredibly fragrant.
Yes, yes. So this is like a mother-in-law's tongue in a different. Now, is that an expensive item there?
I bought that from a grower several years ago. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but it may have cost me $25 to $35, I would
Because
guesstimate.
it's different. Well, you can invest quite a bit of money in this thing.
I've invested quite a bit of money and time, not only in the plants, but in the
You
potting
hardly have
mix.
time to teach journalism.
Well, I do find the time to do everything. I don't sleep a lot, but and also just buying the pots. And most, as you can see here, I like clay pots
Well, yeah, and why do you do that? Why?
because the clay pots breathe and they allow moisture to evaporate easily. And so it really is better to grow cactus plants in a clay pot rather than more of a ceramic pot where they might hold their moisture
But
more.
you know, you can buy clay pots at garage sales really cheap.
Certainly, yes.
But you have to kind of disinfect them.
You
don't
have to clean them. I clean
Yeah.
all of my pots out really, really well and let them dry
I put them in
out.
the dishwasher.
Oh, great idea.
I do. Well, I wash them out so it doesn't get mud in my dishwasher.
Right.
But if I change plants, I put the pot in the dishwasher before.
And that's a very wise tip to give to anybody, that you always clean a pot out after you've thrown a pot away. If you want to use it again, you really want to scrub it out really well.
Yeah, because you don't really know why the other plant died.
That's right.
So that's. I know that the Nerman Museum is having a show, and you have been asked to contribute some of your cacti to the show.
I have.
Talk about that a bit.
Well, Bruce Hartman contacted me and said he had an artist he wanted to bring here who grows cactus and succulents and likes working with those. He saw an article about me in the City of Mission Quarterly magazine, and then another one came out in the Kansas City Star about my hobby. And I was asked to participate in this by loaning some of my cactus plants, and the show is actually centered around my life and actually incorporates a bit of my family, my mom and dad, in the show too. So it's been an incredible honor, and it's sort of like a 15 minutes of fame sort of thing. But it's a
Hollywood
really
may
great
be
show.
calling.
I don't know if Hollywood will call, but the artist is from LA, and I hear a lot of people telling me, even those who work at the Nerman, that this is one of their favorite shows they've ever seen.
Okay, now this is a big question. These plants are important to you.
Yes.
Some of them are very costly. So how do you feel about people coming in and out of there and taking your plants and putting them where you don't have a watch over them?
Well, that's a great question, actually. I was hesitant to put several of my plants in. I have 40 plants in the show, and those are plants that normally would be outside now. So
And
they're
Bruce
not,
picked the most expensive ones, I'm quite sure. Yes.
So there's a nice variety in there, and I know some of those plants will not flower, obviously, but every one of those plants is under a grow light. So they are getting
In the show.
in the show, individual grow lights. So
Was that a condition of
that
lending?
was a condition, and it really looks very cool. The light on them is actually a purple type of light. It combines red and blue light, which becomes a grow light, and so it's helping to feed the plants. None of them will flower there. It has worried me just a little bit, but I wanted to make sure I had some really attractive plants in
Okay,
the show.
here's the moment of truth. How often do you go up and check on them?
I've been there 4 or 5 times, and I've actually come once and watered them. And
Do you have to sneak in?
No, I come in on a Monday when the museum isn't open, and I work with Bruce's staff, and they actually have a cart that kind of lifts me up and moves me around because some of the plants are very, very high, and I've given them a little drink of water, and I'll probably do that one more time. And then instead of taking them back home, I like to bring about 40 plants into my office for the academic year. And so those are the plants that will be in my office for the rest of this coming school year.
So you need a truck to transport all this stuff.
Definitely.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a lot of
I think
fun.
it's fascinating. But I also know that's not your only hobby.
I have lots of different hobbies. I collect lava lamps, and
And
that's
of course, those of us who are a little older know what lava lamps are.
yes, they're really fun. I actually have right now I have a large front window, and I have 7 lamps in the front window, and I have them kind of throughout my house. And they're just fun for me. They do remind me back of the 60s when I was growing up, and my sister had a lava lamp, and so I just think they're really cool, and they give off this nice ambient lighting, and they're just fun to have. So
Do you light them every day?
every day throughout the house. So it's kind of crazy, but it's fun.
It's
It's
all
part
right.
of my
We're all a little
personality.
strange.
Yes.
You know, it's okay. It's
And
all right.
I also collect miniature clocks.
What do you mean? How
Very,
miniature?
very tiny miniature clocks
I'll be darned.
that are of different shapes. I mean, one may be of a watering can, one may be of like a fishing pole, just all different kinds. And actually the lava lamps and the clocks were incorporated into this show that's at the Nerman as well.
So they're up there too.
They're up there too.
Oh, I'm sure you're up there more often than you think 4 or 5 times is the truth. I'm not sure.
I need to get back there again.
Yeah. How did you? Can you fix the clocks, or do you just collect them?
I collect them. So the clocks aren't actually part of the exhibit, but some of the design in the Nerman exhibit are reminiscent of the designs, the shapes of my clocks.
But if they don't work, you don't buy them then, or do you care if they work or not?
Oh, I care if they work. So they all have batteries in them.
Oh, okay.
And
So they're not old particularly.
no, I do have some older clocks, but these are more contemporary, newer, fun, whimsical types of little clocks.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, there's such interesting people out there because I find I have a neighbor like that. He's a retired dentist, but he does stained glass. He made the stained glass for his houses. He flies antique airplanes. And then I have another one across the street. He's a doctor. He plays the piano really well, and he rides his bicycle. And you know, I think, and this is a compliment, I think smart people tend to have lots of interests.
I think it's important for everyone
I do.
to have interests and have a hobby. You can only live your job and your career so much. You have to have something pleasurable outside of that, I think.
I think so. What if you had to take one cactus with you? What would you? Do you have a favorite?
I do have a favorite, and I almost brought it in. It's called a senecio. It's actually a succulent plant, and it is just has very, very thick stems, no leaves, and when I bring it out for the summer and it starts getting some of Mother Nature's rain, it just plumps up really well.
Me
I've
too.
Never seen, I've never seen anyone who has this plant, so that makes it kind of fun for me.
How'd you find it?
I found it from a grower.
Grower.
Yes, it actually, in the Kansas City Cactus Show from a couple of years ago, it actually was awarded a Judge's Award as a favorite.
What do you
plant.
like about it? Is it the shape or
It's the shape and just the oddness of the cactus plant.
I mean, you know, they're all nice. I mean, but you came back right away and said, yes, I have a favorite.
It is one of my favorites. I actually have two of them, and one is at home and one of them is at the Nerman.
That's the one you check on.
That's one, yeah. That's one to check out.
That's one to check on. If somebody was interested in growing cactus and becoming a hobbyist, I mean, you have to start somewhere. So if you start with 2 or 3 cactus, that's okay too. How do they join the group?
The Kansas City Cactus Group. They can go to the website.
And what is it? What's the website?
It's the Kansas City. It's a KCCSS, which is the Kansas City Cactus and Succulent Society.com. And there's information on there about joining and about our meetings. We meet the 3rd Sunday of every month at 1:30 at Luce Park Garden Center. We have a program every week.
What's the difference quickly between a cactus and a succulent?
Cacti normally have spines to them, and they get a lot of their water then from the air through those spines. So all
Are we talking about prickle needles?
Yes.
Okay.
All cactus plants are succulents, but not all succulents are cactus plants.
Ah, see, I told you, I just bought 2 little ones, and they're succulents.
They're beautiful plants.
They are. Well, they're just little. I'm waiting
They'll grow for
for
you.
them to grow. I am. So you have any other ideas about hobbies? Is there any, oh, you know, this is really what I would like to know. Is there any particular kind of cactus you're looking for?
Not in particular. I like to be surprised when I go to shows. And so right now I've gotten into the succulents that have the caudex that we talked about, that your desert
The
rose
big
had.
bottoms.
The big bottoms. So there are several plants that have these beautiful caudexes that sometimes are very twisted and
Really?
mangled looking.
Ooh.
And I'm kind of getting into buying those. In fact, I just bought 5 of those last weekend at the show.
I think that's really, really interesting. I'm going to go and see, in fact, before I go home this afternoon, I'm going to go and see the show at the upstairs and see your, I promise not to touch.
But you can touch.
But you know, it is true. I think when you just kind of get immersed in, it's fun to find things, it's fun to watch them grow, and I guess I honestly, I have to say, as I thank Mark Radaziner for coming and sharing this wonderful hobby with us, I have to say, you know, prickles can be really lovable.
Absolutely. And you and I are true testament to that, right?
That's right, thank you. But you're so welcome to come and visit us, and I hope you'll come again, because we have such interesting and fun neighbors. And Johnson County Community College is very fortunate to have you and to have you teach journalism to
Well, I love it. Thank you very much.
students here. So thanks for coming.
You bet.
Thank you for coming. It's our community, you know. Come back, see us soon. It won't be too long. I'll see you soon again.